Why, hello there, my fellow beavers. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn 1.0. Episode 24, Engineering Aquaponics. Another thing I wanted to do is this, to finally incorporate beehives into the farms, because they are 7x7 for that expressed reason, and we never bothered to do that. Whoa! Lag or something. I didn't mean to drag that. If we're blasting that out, might as well blast this path out too. Alright, so in the food, stick beehives right in the center here, so that all the crops around the beehives will grow faster. Cool. So we're getting all this wheat flour, and looking at the recipes that we're going to make, a bakery so we're going to want to get a bakery. Maybe I'll have like a vertical bakery. That'd be cool. A bakery, and I could put it like this. That's pretty straightforward. So one is going to be for bread, and one is going to be for maple pastries. And the maple pastries one is going to want maple syrup nearby. So we can do like I could have be super Canadian and have like a giant stockpile of maple syrup adjacent. That'd be funny. There's not an easy way to get past to that spot though. Also, all these blueberries can be ripped up at some point. I have blueberries over here. Blueberries aren't useful foods to eat raw anyway. So I think it's time to maybe... Oh, and it looks like the flow rate, I think we're at 1. Yes, we're at 1. So it seems like the gauge here should be 0.16. We found the perfect number for the amount of subterranean tiles that we have, because it's just enough to compensate for evaporation plus a little extra, because any less and the water level goes down. So it is the water level stays at 100% and never goes down, and it will waste a little, but not enough for us to care. Wow, yeah, as you can see, it's... The difference between 0.15 and 0.16 is... Let me just double check that. It's apparently flood or not flood, which is funny. And then if you're wondering how much water we've lost, we have lost a significant amount of water, but just keep in mind that this was a 25-day drought, so this is nearly a maximum length drought, and we're keeping our subterranean river fully filled. And that subterranean river fully filled is a 20 days worth of water. So with the water that we have in here and in the subterranean river, we have maybe 25 more days of water, and that's more than enough to survive even max length droughts, which is why it's not a problem. Okay, finally, the trees got ripped up. All right, putting new trees in. So I'm going to want chestnuts, let's say here, and maples, maybe a few more chestnuts. Chestnuts here and maples here. And then to change the cut zone, to not cut those down. Oops, I did the opposite. Change the cut zone to not cut those down. Good. And that will allow us to get more edible tree stuff in. Good. So our forester is going to be hella busy, but, whatever, that's fine. Just as a goofy project, because I like goofy projects, an overhang pathway to completely circle up the trees. There's no point to this project. And that's almost the point to the project. All right. So, maple pastries. Let's do... again, I'm going to overuse small storages. I know I said I shouldn't, and I acknowledge that. I also don't care because I'm growing tall, not wide. So we have maple pastries stored there. We'll do 2 small tanks of maple syrup here. And then we'll need bread storage. So here is just standard bread. Loaf. And then maybe log storage, because the bakeries do require logs. And get that built. Oh, and we're starting to see the ramifications of that pretty quickly, as I am now supplying bread and maple pastries. We are out of paper for the beehives, so we'll spin up the paper mill and start supplying paper for the rest. How's the power level? Power level looks good. Water level is good. Depth is, we want it around 1, and it's around 1, so that looks roughly correct. And then our forester is planting all the new pine, or sorry, maple and chestnut to supply that stuff. I know I'm out of planks. I just turned on the lumber mill. God, I have 10k science. Ridiculous. It's half of what we need for the earth recultivator. Little overkill, but you know, whatever. All right, I'm gonna get rid of the maple syrup storage here because I don't. It's next to the tap shack, but that's not where we use it. We use it here. So the bakery has logs, maple pastries, flour, and maple syrup adjacent to it. And the regular bakery has wheat, flour, logs, and bread storage next to it. So both of them are pretty efficient as a result. And now that they're starting to really ramp up, as you can see, I basically have a perfect supply of bread and maple pastries. Good. I think we solved that. Now, the consequence of having the beehives I think are still a net benefit, but there will be some bee stings, and bee stings are not that much of a problem of well-being as long as you know, compensate with other positives. So the next question, now that the pastries are done, is what next project? We can do aquatic crops, monuments, wet fur, Lido, agora, carousel, food. So the remaining food would be cattail crackers and spatterdock, which is like both aquatic crops. So I guess that's redundant, but so I'll get rid of the food. Hold on, let me reset that. So I'm supplying all of the nutrition that is non-aquatic now, for reference. Maybe 0.15 is not the right number. Or 0.15. Let's do 0.0. Let's bring it down to 12? I don't know, because this has been flooding. I'll reset it. And the depth should be going down, not up. I'm trying to find that like sweet spot. And I missed it. So in terms of what water we have left, we still have 3 layers of water left for irrigation. But I'm absolutely wrong about the sweet spot. That much I'm sure. Could the aquatic farms work in the underground areas? I don't believe so, no. Alright, so the depth is going down now. Which means this is too low of a flow rate. So maybe 13? Because this drought is in no way going to end us, I don't really care if we waste extra water trying to, like, tinker with this. So it's not a big deal one way or another. Alright, we are going to start working on building a Lido area. And here's my thought. So, directly underneath this here, we don't have any subterranean tiles. So the way the Lido works is the Lido is somewhere where your beavers can just, like, wet their fur. And I like Lido more than shower, personally. So I'm going to do Lido, which is why that was in the priority. And what I'm planning on doing is having Lido maybe here and here, like multiple Lido along this. So for that, I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to raise the level of the water up in this section. I also think it might be nice. So there's not a reason to build elevated platforms, I'll acknowledge, because you can just walk through the water. It's all the same. But I'm going to build elevated platforms just for the aesthetics. And I'm going to prepare this area for Lido. Icefire, thank you for the sub. And the way I'm going to do that is to bomb out a big depth here. So if we take a look at the Lido Wellbeing, it uses a 2x4 spot for water. So what I'm planning on doing is having a whole bunch of Lido. It's probably more than we need, but it's one of these things that are passive, right? They don't need to be maintained. So having like a massive amount of extra really doesn't hurt you. And I'm going to super deepen this section of the river so that there's like definitely water in the Lido. Because why the heck not? So some of this is like too far to be accessible, and that's an easy fix. Done. So this is what I would call Lido overkill. And that's what I'm about. Also seems to me that all of the beehives are in. Cool. And just to make sure, yes, the Lido demolition does not interfere with our subterranean rivers. That part's kind of important. Even the ones in the middle are pathable. Good. Okay, that's been emptied out. So that's not for anything just yet. Actually, we wanted, what, grilled potatoes here, I think? Let me make sure that it... I really don't have any spots of grilled potatoes. In fact, I don't think we grow enough potatoes. But when we have more grilled potatoes, we'll put them in there. So we have carrots, potatoes, wheat. Because I could always irrigate more land or utilize this area. Like there's easily things we could do to increase our supply. So I'm not in any way worried about it. Not going to seal up the entrance to the tunnels? I could. I'm not sure it makes a significant enough difference to have like 16 more units of... Because Actually, I take that back. If we seal up all the tunnels, it can't overflow. And then the flow rate is less of an issue because there's nowhere for the water to go. So I guess the benefit of that is like, I don't need to work out the flow rate calculus or algebra or whatever. But we also can't get down there easily to expand the farms. So it's like, yeah, it's a mix. I could go either way. Oh, come on now. Real? Leaving it open creates a good buffer when it overflows. The thing is, if it wasn't open, we wouldn't need to worry about it overflowing. It would just fill. And it would fill perfectly. I can really see it going both ways. But it does seem like I got close to the perfect number. Like 0.13 is probably enough flow rate that it will never overflow after this drought. But just keep fed all the time. And the only thing that capping it would do would be to lower its evaporation rate by like a tiny amount. I don't know. I'll just leave it because it doesn't really need solving at the moment. All right, big bombs. So, the event of this is there's going to be water available for the Lido now that it's a lot deeper, so that just a little bit of evaporation won't really matter to it. And we'll get those built. And that should pretty much solve our, like, wet fur issues forever. I just don't see a situation where there's enough evaporation to have all the water disappear from these Lido areas. Now, the water, of course, needs to be deeper, but as soon as this drought ends, it will be. So, I'm about to solve the Lido issue. Leading up to that, we will need a lot more... planks, gears, wood, etc. I just turned them all back on because I know I'm using it up in the Lido, the planks specifically, and logs. What next project? Aquatic crops, monuments, agora, carousel. There's other well-being too that like dance hall, mud pit. There's other things that I've whizzed over, contemplation, etc. But these are just sort of broad picture things. No, that's only depth. Yeah, okay. Flow rate a little higher. I really can't get it right. You know what it might be, actually? Is as soon as it overflows here, beyond this level, the evaporation ramps up high because it exposes a lot more water to surface. And then it goes back down, so it's kind of like zigzagging. Interestingly. That's probably what's going on. Maybe. Alright, there we go. There's the Lido. We completely nuked our wood supply. But, like, no big deal. I don't have enough water to fill the Lido, but the Lido will be filled in about a day by the wet season. And we are, you may have noticed, sitting on a metric ton of food now. Like, I've got 100 pastries, 250 bread, apparently I had grilled potatoes. I just wasn't like properly storing it. So we also have like 216 grilled potatoes and sunflower seeds. We have food for days. Basically, there's food available for everybody. Meaning that like any wellness not being filled up is just they hadn't eaten in that in a while. So that's nice. All right. Looks like aquatic crops are going to be the next priority. So start working towards aquatic crops. What I think I'm going to do here is a weird solution. I want to engineer an area. So the aquatic crops still benefit from beehives. So I think what I want to do is to set up aquatic crop areas in 7x7 cubes with beehives in the center. Meaning, using an area like here, which will irrigate. So this is a 7x7 cube, right? Because obviously it covers. Meaning something like this, where we put a beehive in the center, elevated, and then in order to have water available, because I have bombs available, we nuke out the middle. And I don't know how many aquatic crops I'm going to have exactly, but like what I'll do is at least I'll start the process of setting this area for aquatic crops. And the issue we're having here is we like physically don't have access to the space, but that's no problem. You double check the aquatic crops, by the way, they drown in water above height 1. Oh. Keeping these fed is going to be challenging then. Now, I do have this west aquifer to keep them fed. What I could do is hook this up to the subterranean irrigation system. Maybe that's what I'll do. I can hear like my green screen trying to pull away from the wall. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my plan entirely. Let's cancel this here. Mostly because it's like almost fully refunded. It's no problem. Alright, if I wanted aquatic crops to be watered by this thing, I could pretty easily tap in this section because there's going to be water available. And if I do that, I can also just like bomb out or expand the tank here. You know, if I wanted to build like dirt walls here, it would really not be that difficult, right, to do. So what I'm talking about is something like this, where because the volume of this water might not be great enough to keep aquatic crops irrigated for long droughts, to build more volume. Because adding more volume to this storage tank is like actually pretty ridiculously simple now that like the underground sections are finished. So let me make sure that this is a cube. It's 11. I think I did that right. Doesn't need to be a perfect cube. But yeah, something like that. Building the tank out, blasting this all the way back down. It'll take a while, but it's doable. And then using the already subterranean systems I have here to then irrigate this area, maybe? I think that's what I'll do. It's probably more complex than it really needs to be, but I at this point, like, complexity is welcome. I want it. So we'll have aquatic crops around here, which is... And I'm picking that spot because it's like roughly... It's close enough to this zipline station that it's accessible. And it's also right over the underground river that we've got going on. And if I can keep the underground river up to a level of 1, then it will always have enough water for the aquatic crops to thrive without really risk of it dying off. So, what I'm doing... I suppose what I should do is I should paint out the 7x7s. So we'll start the aquatic crops here. That should be 7. No, that's 8. That will be 7. And I'll just remove the mountain. I want to leave a little space for, like, industry. I don't want to, encroach too much. Which means the beehive will, all of this will lower by 1, right? Actually, water's there. Yeah, so all of this level will, all this area will lower by 1. And then the beehive will be in the middle. Something along those lines. So I'll try to get the first one prototyped now, and then we can, you know, end stream. Going a little overtime, but that's pretty normal. Alright, the irrigation water tank is completely full. You kind of wanted a bad tie before end of stream? Yeah, well, the game was like, no, you're not getting one of those. Tough cookies. Just my luck. Actually, what I'll try to do is equalize. So what is this, 3? So do 3s, 2s, 1s to get it flat, and then we'll start like a stairwell. Yeah, something like that. Go on, beavers. Well, the thing about our setup is because of the amount of water that we're hoarding, essentially, it takes so long for flows to start flowing again. Like, it's been like almost a day, and only our main river's starting to get some water now. So these Lidos soon will be functional, but it's going to take it takes a while. So now you can see the underwater tunnels that we have here. Oh, I should have actually blasted 2 down in those spots, but whatever. So here, in order to have aquatic crops, we just blast everything but the center point, which is going to have a beehive. And that's what the aquatic crop layout will look like. Oh, I miscalculated. Yeah, I need to blast that too. And in order to get down here, I'll just have a temporary, oops. Well, I'm gonna need, access, well, whatever. I'll build the access to the area later. But I'm just trying to lay out the space for it now. Just so that you can conceptualize what the thing will look like. So the big tank's full. Our drinking tank is filling, slowly, but filling. Aquifer is also full. And the main river is basically full. I guess it's a good time to grab bad water. The easy access, injury-free bad water. And you can see how this will fill up, and I have to be careful about how I fill this up. Meaning that we will want to ultimately disconnect this so I can control the water level here, because these two rivers then will be separate. Oh, and we have a bad tide coming. Unpause dirt. Yes, I am out of dirt, and we weren't doing anything with it. Good call. All right, come on, beavers. I want to get this finished. I guess it's not high priority, so that's my fault. It's funny to see them building it from, like, the subterranean path. Crazy that we waited so long for the bad tide. So in the last day, yeah, that's going to fill up. I don't know if these rivers are going to fill back up. Not that I really care about those rivers. But how long we have to wait. Quite a while. The beaver that was thirsty, just open your mouth. Yeah, it's low-key kind of funny that they can, like, be thirsty underwater and just not drink. So all of the standard water level here is much higher than I will normally allow it to be, which is why the aquatic farm, I think, will be fine in this spot. Once I separate out the two rivers, because this is going to sit at 1. That's the goal, or slightly below 1. So what we're doing here is, the way this aquatic farmhouse works is we'll need access to the water. So I'll blast, probably in this spot, a access point. And then we can start, you know, planting in this area. But as I mentioned, it will require us to separate out the two rivers. So I think the easiest way to do that is just to brick it here, so that this can't flow into that. So I can control the water level in this section. That's probably the simplest. There might be some consequences from doing this. And how did I get the goodwill? Oh, wet fur. Yeah. The Lidos are working now. Yes, obviously. That makes sense. I was like, how am I succeeding? It's a weird thought. So in order to lower the water level for the subterranean river, I obviously will have to not allow flow. And what might actually be helpful at some point is to blast a drain here. I might, and this is a little dangerous to do right before bad tide, but I might want to tunnel all the way through. Tunnel probably to this side here first, you know, to create some sort of like pathway to get there, and to put a flow valve there so I can lower the water level intentionally if it gets too high. But that silly path we built, I hadn't actually built. Yeah, I'll just do that now. The hell with it. And this path is going to be a lot easier to maintain mid. Okay, there we go. Something like that. It's goofy, but as long as it connects. And that allows me to intentionally lower the water level if it gets too high for the aquatic crops. Remember to raise the gates for the bad tide? Yep. I will, I'll keep going until the start of the bad tide so that we can actually see the bad tide overflow thing work. Because, we haven't, despite all the infrastructure built here, which was upsetting. So in order to prepare for the bad tide, let's prep for that now. I'm going to lower this floodgate all the way. And raise this one and lower this one, diverting all the water off tile. Because we have a half day left, I might as well just do it now. So as you can see, all the water is now being diverted away from because my drinking tank's basically full, my irrigation tank's full, so I don't need to be adding any more water to the system. Meaning that there's nothing else to do for the bad tide. It's ready to absorb. Okay, will it be able to handle the flow? It really should. I mean, I can't imagine a situation where it can't. Be hard to imagine, but still. The bad tide started, and yeah, easily this is way over-engineered. There's zero risk of this contaminating. So, yeah, we're good. This is what a bad tide looks like now. A whole nothing burger, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as I know, yeah, there's no walkable... Okay, so that's not true. This is technically walkable. I just hope that our beavers are wise enough not to decide to wade into the cancer. And there is no walkable paths down here. So there's basically no contamination risk to our beavers during bad tides. We cap this. This doesn't flow anywhere dangerous, and that doesn't really flow anywhere dangerous either. Yeah, everything that is green remains green. The bad tide has essentially been conquered. And I kind of knew that, having built this at the start of the stream, but it's nice to finally see it functioning. And because I'm like literally a millisecond away from finishing this side project, I'll just go a few more minutes to get the flow rate done. And because this is a really short bad tide, I don't really mind lowering my irrigation water level. Now, the only problem with the irrigation water level, and you guys might be right, is... let me think about this. Oh, no, it's just a flow rate. Never mind. Yeah, it should be fine. Because it's not that I'm... Lowering the water level doesn't necessarily mean the irrigation water goes down. It just means I have to adjust the flow rates. So that... this can flow out to accommodate our aquatic farm. And once this is built, we can blast that last section, and that gives us the ability to control the water level, which allows us to then farm there comfortably. And that might need, one more dynamite each. Something like that. But I just wanted to, like, prototype the start of the aquatic farm, and then you can imagine, like, 4 of them or something around this area. Obviously, it requires a lot of dynamite, but it's not like we can't afford that. It would look something like that once it's done. So throttling is in. Cool. So this is now unpaused and high priority. I might end up, I'll put it this way. I'm almost certainly going to end up changing the location of this aquatic farmhouse. Because, like, this is almost certainly not where I want it. But just as a proof of concept, we'll plop it in there. And, yep. Alright, there it is. We've got a connection to our underwater river so that I can drain it if I want to. And I have to be careful with this throttle valve because I hit unlimited. With this unlimited, it just becomes like a dam release. Full cubic centimeter dam release, and it gets real dangerous. So our current water level here is what? It is 0.18 too high. Looking at that stream gauge, 0.17 too high. So if I wanted to release it, I could just be like, boop. Maybe not unlimited. We'll set it. Wait for this to hit 1-ish. There it is. Sealed up. And yes, this is something that automation could do. And now the water level around here is... This should... Oh, it's still flooded. It's probably flooded just, like, barely. Because this hasn't equalized quite yet. Yep, now it's no longer flooded. Perfect. So, these guys can start to plant... just... Where is it? Spatterdock or cattail. So let's do... Because I have all the infrastructure for cattail. Do cattail. And that would be the aquatic farm. And as you can see, it works great. So then the math here is just making sure that we control the water levels, either through automation or setting the flow rate just enough to counter the crops dying off. Oh, that's building up too high. Apparently it doesn't really require... Let's do 0.05, something like that. Because we don't want the water level going too high, because we'll drown the crops, which is bad for them. But, yeah, as a proof of concept, you can see what the concept looks like. Using the same underwater river as an irrigation system for aquatic crops. Using beehives for the aquatic crops, because they do benefit. The beehives only benefit crops, not trees. But they will benefit the aquatic crops and the non-aquatic crops. And then having an overflow valve here in case things get wrong. And yeah, I think we did a pretty good job. It works. Proof of concept done. And all at this point, for more aquatic crops, if we want to do like 2 of cattail and 2 of spatterdock, we just need more dynamite. More things go boom. And then also, of course, to add a greater volume of water here. So there's really no concern for like long droughts where our aquatic crop dry up. Can I try to plant in the tunnel? Yeah, sure. As a proof of concept, sure. Before I end... Because, yeah, that is another thing. Can you do fully subterranean? I believe you can. I don't think it needs a source of, No, it's not letting me put it. But it might be, like, a too high thing. It might be a vertical thing. Because, like, you know, well, that's obviously not going to work. But that would be another thing you could hypothetically... The problem is using these giant water supplies is they're too deep for aquatic crops. But yeah, all right. Proof of concept done. Let's put the pathways back in. Not that they're really needed. And you can see how that will scale up if this series continues. But this is where I'm going to leave off. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn 1.0, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhodamont.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow beavers.